But tell me your experience of Bronx Tale. Take me back to that time.
It's very intimidating because you know you have a big part in this film.
Right.
You know this film is contingent on your performance.
And you kind of just played yourself.
Yeah. Like it worked out because I was a kid of that age. And at that age, you're right about to get to that crossroad. Do I go this way or that way? And that's what the character was experiencing as well. Yeah. If you're going to ask me my loyalty of De Niro or Trump, my loyalty is with De Niro.
Okay.
Listen, whatever his political belief, listen, he gave me a responsibility, something just to believe in a kid that age. That says something. But my favorite scene in the film, I like two scenes, and they're both with Chaz, who I don't think that highly of as a person.
I heard. I'm sure they would want you to cooperate against your co-defendant, that Armento, right? Stephen Armento.
Yeah, I had a deal. Right. I had a deal for 3 years.
Yeah.
I was facing life.
Right,
Can you imagine them to say, I'll give you 3 years right now if you tell on this guy? You know what I said?
So you're in Rikers, man. You're in a...
Yeah.
I mean, you were there, and people describe it, you don't get it.
People throwing hot water on another guy's whole face peeling off.
It's
stuff like that.
Bad. The word is that Chaz got $1 million for that movie, Bronx Tale.
I believe he did, yeah.
And you got $25,000?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could go back, right, would you still have gone to the beach that day?
Still to this day, even though I was told don't apologize, I am apologizing because he was 28, I was 29. You know what I'm saying? Sure. I did my time. I came out a better person. That's all really that matters. Some people come out worse. I came out better. They're trying to put me away for 1,000,000 years. This is nothing of what you guys are saying. You're making it out to be like I'm some crazy guy coming out and doing this. No, I was an addict, and this shit just happened like this.
Who stuck by you? Because you were here, right? You were on top of the world, and then there was a decline because you started using drugs, right? And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Street Attorney Podcast. I'm your host, Gerard Marrone, and I am very proud for our guest this evening. We have Lillo Brancato Jr. Lillo is an American actor, best known for his portrayal of Cologito in Robert De Niro's 1993 A Bronx Tale. He also portrayed Matthew Bevilacqua in The Sopranos. He served time in prison for his involvement in a house break-in that left an off-duty police officer dead. He is clean and sober here today. He has a story of redemption. He is an example of perseverance and is an inspiration. Tonight we have the rise, the fall, and the rise again of Lillo Brancato. Welcome, my friend. I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. So, we met 3 times, and I'll tell you funny. So this is the 3rd time we met. I was an extra on the Bronx Tale.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I remember you vividly. So that was 1993. It was 92. It was
when
filmed,
we shot
right?
it, then it came out in 93.
Right. So I'm 51. You're 48. So I'm 2 years older than you. So I remember doing the scene in Aqueduct Racetrack.
Oh, wow.
With you, and it was a 2-day shoot, and I was in awe of that day. I saw you. I saw Robert De Niro. I saw Mush do that scene. He was going up and down. The Aqueduct Racetrack, the track, the stands, and that was the first time I met you. And it's funny how things happen in life. We have a very dear friend in common, so that's our connection. And then I probably saw you in 1994, right before I got hurt in Manhattan, in a club.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yes, and I was a club kid, and I know you were a club kid. And you were in the bathroom when you were by yourself. And then you were in the club. And I remember people kind of giving you a little bit of a hard time in the club. And then today is the 3rd time. And I guess a lot's changed. So Bronx Tale is an epic film. And I think it stands the test of time. I'll tell you a little funny story about my kids. I have 3 boys. And Bronx Tale teaches them the way the old neighborhood was. Kind of like how you and I grew up. I can't show them that anymore, right? So movies like Goodfellas, Bronx Tale, right? Bronx Tale is a good show. It's a good movie. It's wholesome family stuff, right? It's good stuff. Yeah. Tell me your experience, your memories of that. How I know it changed your life, but tell me your experience of Bronx Tale. Take me back to that time.
Well, I just remember when I first went to read, they found me on the beach.
Yes.
And, then I did a little audition for the Scout, but that was in the Bronx.
Right.
A little audition room. They had the Belmont Playhouse. It wasn't, that it wasn't a big deal. Not to say it wasn't a big deal, but I'm just saying I wasn't too intimidated because it was just me and the guy Marco Greco. But then when I went down to read, when I got the call back and I had to go to Manhattan where De Niro's office was and where they were doing the auditions, like I got to that level. I was very intimidated because when I got there was a lot of kids reading for my part.
Sure.
So I kept getting the call back. And then, there was less and less kids. And then eventually I met De Niro. I got the screen test. But I remember one of the first things I remember was being on the set early on when the movie first started. I remember seeing all these people. Every different department had a big tractor trailer, the grips.
Huge production.
Yeah. The grips, the electricians, the wardrobe. Everyone had their own big truck. So you're coming onto the street where the set is, and there's like 1 million tractor trailers. There's a big production going on. And as a first-time actor, and especially being that age, it's very intimidating because you have a big part in this film.
Right.
This film is contingent on your performance.
It's a big responsibility.
Big responsibility. And now you're looking at all these people and you're like, oh my God, all these people here for me. And in a way they are.
Yeah, you were the star of the show. You really
not to toot my own horn. Not to toot my own horn.
Show.
But I knew that Calogero narrated the film. He had this big role. So now seeing all of this, it was I was like, wow, man, I got to do a good job. I can't let all these people, these are grown-ups.
So let me ask you, so how did you deal with that pressure as a 16-year-old kid with no acting training at all, correct?
I just dealt with it by being able to do it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're intimidated, you're just getting there. But once you're like in front of the camera and you can see that you can knock this out, 1 or 2 takes.
You get a little confident, little wins.
Exactly.
It also brings you back to the street. Like you're a street kid. Both of us are kind of street kids, right? And you got balls. You just do it.
Yeah.
Even though you're afraid, you just do it. And you kind of find something inside. You have to find that grit.
Well, they knew. De Niro knew. You know what I mean? I was 16 years old, but he was a grown man in the business for, that many years. This is the first thing he's directing. He knew what it was as an actor because he came up, as an actor, and he had to know what it was like when he was first starting out. So because of that empathy, he was able first to recognize this kid has what it takes. I'm going to give him this responsibility because I see that he has something of what it takes to be able to do this. So I guess just when I got there and I saw that, like we did the scene when Sonny was driving backwards. What
was the first scene? Was that the first scene?
That was the first scene.
Okay.
Yeah. October 5th, 1992. They had already started shooting the film.
And that was in the Bronx?
No, Astoria, Queens.
Astoria, that's right. That's right. It was in Astoria. I remember the scene by Bryant High School.
Exactly. That's where we shot it. So, but that, that was all good. At first it was a little intimidating, but as time went on, I got very confident because I saw that I was able to do it. And it wasn't...
You're a natural.
Yeah, thank you.
You were really a natural. You were. I mean, you have no acting... You had at the time, certainly, no acting training.
No.
Or anything like that. And you kind of just played yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what it was, right? I think you were lucky that you just kind of found a niche and played yourself for better, for worse. And that it worked out then.
Yeah, and it worked out because I was a kid of that age. And at that age, you're right about to get to that crossroad. Do I go this way or that way? And that's what the character was experiencing as well.
Yeah.
Does he go with his dad or does he go with Sonny? And I was faced by that exact dilemma in real life.
Yes.
So it was just maybe a little different than the way I would say things because it was a character that I was playing, but it was still the same mindset from basically the same place. That was Arthur Ramey in the Bronx, but I was from Yonkers, which is 10 minutes away.
The metaphor
it's
is
very
powerful.
A lot, the way they described the character, handsome, street smart, sensitive, all of those things I was, I think. I think I was handsome.
I think you were. No,
you know what I mean? But when I saw
You're
the character, the character description, I said, I thought this was a good fit.
Did you have acting aspirations?
No.
Not at all?
No.
So this kind of came out of nowhere?
Well, I loved De Niro because somebody told me that I looked like him when I was a kid. I used to work at a florist. I was putting out the Christmas wreaths. Somebody said, oh, you look like De Niro. I didn't even know who he was. So then I went home and I said, who's this guy De Niro? And then my dad was showing me who he was. Because Italians, they love him. Yeah. I don't know how much anymore, but after... No, but it's me personally, listen, if you're going to ask me my loyalty of De Niro or Trump, my loyalty is with De Niro.
Okay.
What has Trump done for me?
Well,
De Niro put me in a movie that has changed my life for the better. What has Trump done for me?
Right.
Not to say anything against Trump, but I'm just saying, when it comes to that man or that man.
You're in Trump land over here, just so you know.
No. I'm not saying anything about Trump.
Yes.
But, a lot of people, screw De Niro. I don't want to watch his movies anymore. For me, it's a little different just because De Niro changed my life.
Yes.
So if I got to take this side or that side, it's not that I got anything bad to say about Trump, but I got to stay with De Niro. De Niro met my mom and dad. He was good to my family. He was good to my family, and he changed my life. He gave me a responsibility, something just to believe in a kid that age. That says something. So I respect him.
And he directed you, too. It wasn't like he was just in the movie.
Are you kidding me? I respect De Niro. Listen, whatever his political beliefs, listen, you can't ever disrespect someone for standing up for what they believe in.
100%.
If he's, if that's what he believed in, then that's what it is.
I think you got to have an open mind. You have to respect everybody's beliefs, their political beliefs, no matter what they are, and you got to have an open mind. I mean, that's really the bottom line.
I don't think people should necessarily say what their political beliefs are. Sometimes it's because it divides people, but De Niro's okay with me. I don't, good. Not that I have anything against Trump, but like I said, if it's going to be one or the other, I got to say with Bobby, just because he was always good to me.
De Niro is iconic.
Yeah. You see the one film he's got coming out called Alto Kings?
Yeah, with Frank Costello. He plays Frank Costello and Genevieve.
He plays both.
Yes.
Did you see the trailer?
Yes, it looks really good.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks really good. He could pull it. If anyone could pull it off, he could pull it off.
See how good he looked like Vito with the mouth and everything.
He looks just like Frank Costello.
And he looks just like Vito, too. They had him in
the
back seat when he had the glasses with the mug.
Yeah.
He looked like Vito.
Yeah.
Listen, man.
Magic.
Listen, when you meet De Niro, you got to meet him in person and really get to know him to realize what a genius he really is.
Right.
Because when you meet him in person, it's I don't want to use the word awkward because it's almost an insult, but it is almost a little awkward the way he comes because he's very introverted. Okay? And even when you get to know him, he still doesn't say much. He'll joke around with you more. And sometimes, because I guess he's such a genius and he has so much going on, sometimes it's hard. He'll do all the faces, but he'll say one word. You know what I mean? It's like because there's maybe so much going on. But then then you see him and then you watch, knowing him what he is as a person and in real life.
On the screen.
And then watching a movie like Flowers of the Killer Moon.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yes, I did. Amazing.
And then he's playing this with this accent and playing this. How does he do that?
It's magic.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. That's when you really appreciate the genius that he is. That's when you realize
look at Cape Fear.
Yeah. This guy doesn't say two words in real life. And then he turns this thing on where he becomes so huge and so present on that damn screen.
One thing I heard you talk about on a podcast, what he taught you to act. When you act, less is more.
Absolutely.
And it's the subtlety.
Right.
And if you don't know what to do, don't do anything.
Right.
And how film just picks up the nuances of your facial expression, even a micro expression
becomes bigger on film.
Yes.
So that's why less is more.
Yes.
When you do less, it translates as real.
Yes.
When you do what you really should be doing, it comes out as too more. But that's why you got to really get to know,
Right. Now let me ask you a little bit. I want to go back to the ramifications of the movie, okay, and how it changed your life. But talk about the movie a little bit. What were some of your favorite parts, your favorite scenes?
To act in or to watch?
To watch. The result of your acting. The result.
For me, my best scene, or the one that I like to watch, I think that the acting for me was my best in that was when the girl comes back with her brother. Mm-hmm. Because there's two different, yes. And then there's
who you're still in touch with, by the way.
I just saw her.
That's amazing.
I have a podcast as well. I don't know if you saw.
Yes.
Just had her on my show.
And I know you want to do some kind of a sequel almost to the Bronx Tale with Jane. Right.
Yeah. I just saw her the other day.
Yes.
But in that scene, I'm yelling at the brother. Mm-hmm. What are you talking about? I tried to help Jane. I'm telling you. So it was back and forth. It's being sweet, please, persuasive. I'm telling. Yes. And then back to this guy. So that was, for me, I think, watching the result of my acting for that scene. because it's like you're trying to convey two different emotions to two different people that are right there. So it's got to switch on, boom, switch off, switch on, switch. You know what I mean?
And how real is that for you? Are you able to do that in real life? Are you able to? Are you a switch? You get crazy quick.
Yeah, of course. Which
Sad
is not
quick, right?
Yeah, but getting crazy quick is not a strength. That's a weakness.
That's true. Correct. But in acting, if you could put it on and off,
Yeah.
it's an acting strength. I would imagine.
Oh, I'll get nuts in 2 seconds.
Right,
Like I could do that.
Yeah.
But it's for you know what I mean. She knows.
No, well, me too. But as I think you get older, you work on that. You know?
Yeah.
And I think, and again, less is more, especially in life.
Yeah.
Especially on the Long Island Expressway. Yeah. Less is a lot more.
But my favorite scene in the film, it's got to be. I like two scenes, and they're both with Chaz, who I don't think that highly of as a person.
I heard. Yeah.
I don't. I'm not going to fake it.
Listen, I think I want to. We'll go back. I think you got a little bit of a raw deal, but
he's no good. De Niro's all right because he's never said anything bad about me when I got in trouble, and he taught me a lot, and he gave me a big responsibility, and so for that reason, all the political stuff, I try not to pay attention to that because that's something else. But that other guy, Chaz, no good. But he was brilliant in the film.
Yeah.
He wrote it. He was great as Sonny. I can't see anybody else playing that. And, if he sucked, I would have said it too. He sucked. But not in that film. I like the scene when he meets the kid for the first time and he tells him about Mickey Mantle. Chaz's acting was great in that.
Yeah. Well, he's probably being himself too.
Yeah. He was great in that.
Story.
And I like the scene too when, with Joe Pesci in the beginning. Nobody knows it's him.
Yes.
And the guy, Joe Black, goes and breaks his window. Calls him a freehole. When Pesci, fuck you freehole.
Yes.
When he calls him that. And that was a great scene. Then Chaz comes and shoots him.
Yeah.
So my two favorite scenes to watch are when he meets the kid for the first time and when they kill the guy in the street.
Going back to that scene, so they're allegedly, Sonny's a captain, I would say, in a crime family, and the Joe Pesci character is one of his probably a crew member or somebody that's in his organization, let's say, and you don't really catch it in the beginning because you don't even really see Joe Pesci's face. It's a quick shot, but then you see him at Sonny's funeral. He approaches you and he says, "Now I'm the guy, kid. Yeah. You need anything, you come see me."
Right.
And that's fucking real.
Yeah.
That's just the way it works. That's the way it works. Yeah. Take it from me. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And that's the way it works. Somebody runs a neighborhood, and for whatever reason, they're not around anymore, whether it's they died or they're in prison, and someone else comes and takes the place. But in real life...
That was Carmine, but it was great because when Pesci says years ago, then you got to watch the movie again to go see that was him. But there's another thing, too. You probably didn't notice it, but you see what a big deal Pesci's character is. Because before he comes in, remember all the cars are outside?
Yes.
You see his car pull up.
I never noticed that.
Somebody opens the door for him and everything.
That. Okay.
So if you got somebody opening the door for you, you're a somebody.
Right, he's a boss.
You're a somebody.
In the Bronx.
So you see that. Watch that again.
Yeah.
That adds so much to it.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, watch that again.
Yeah, in the Bronx, a lot of tough guys from the Bronx. And a lot of the Harlem guys moved to the Bronx, and then Bronx became the enclave.
Yeah.
A lot of organized crime figures.
Some of the toughest guys ever came out of the Bronx.
100%. And there's still a lot of Italians.
Oh yeah.
In the Bronx, Morris Park, Throgs Neck.
Even Belmont, Fordham, that's still there.
Yeah, a lot of tough people in the Bronx.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about Chaz, and I heard the little animosity you had. I got to tell you, I know that you got $25,000 for Bronx Tale.
Yeah.
And my lawyer instinct kicks in, right? And my protective instinct kicks in. If you were my client, my friend, certainly my friend, I got to shake my head and I'm like, this kid got a raw deal. Because they gave you scale. They gave you a couple of thousand a day, whatever it was, right?
So back then scale was $1,620 a week.
A week. Okay. So that's not much money at all. Maybe it's $50,000, $60,000 today. And I think you were thrust into a world that almost everybody took advantage of you as a young kid. And I think, and I know your story, and a lot of people know your story. You became addicted to drugs. You became addicted to a lifestyle, and then that spiraled out of control. But throughout that journey, right, throughout that spiral, nobody helped you, from what I can see. And it's almost like the movie it gave with one hand and took a lot away with the other hand. You know, and almost like they set you up for failure. Tell me a little bit
You're
about
absolutely right about that. If I would have had the right guidance
Right.
behind landing a film like that, but I don't blame my parents because my parents are
What did they-
immigrants.
yeah,
My parents
well,
are Italian
what
immigrants.
did they know? Right.
What did they know?
My parents are the same.
They didn't know anything about drugs. They
Right.
didn't know any of the signs. This guy's on drugs.
Right.
All right, now we got to steer him this, or we got to do this. They knew nothing about that. My parents were always very good. My dad worked every day like an animal. My mom's cooked every day, you know. So they didn't know anything about that. But, you know, yeah, definitely. It's a blessing and a curse.
Right.
I think maybe 25% blessing, 75% curse.
Right.
Because, you know, the way my life worked out was that, you know, I got that so easy. You get actors, they work their whole lives and still never land a role like that.
Yes.
Because let's face it, that is a role of a lifetime.
It's a lifetime. Once in a lifetime
right,
role.
You're not just working with De Niro.
Yes.
He's choosing you to play the lead role in his directorial debut. He's making his mark as an actor and using you as his muse to play the lead role.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like never wanting to be an actor, I still can't get the full grasp of what this is. There's probably actors, you know, like John Bernthal.
Yes.
I was on his podcast
Yes, I
and he
saw.
was like, dude, I used to look up to you. I
Yes.
used to see you
Yeah.
at auditions when
Very,
you got
very
this
nice.
movie.
Yes.
It's like, I wanted to do this my whole life. And I'm saying, wow, this kid got a role of a lifetime. And that's the problem. I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
He did. He appreciated it vicariously.
Right.
Just because
Well, I remember we were in the back. We were in Aqueduct Racetrack, and we were kind of hanging out.
Kryptonite, hanging there.
Yeah, we were hanging out, and I'm looking at you. I'm like, wow, I was just in awe, you know. And I remember Sylvia Fay.
Oh yeah, Sylvia Fay.
casting, right?
Extra kid. Yo, Sylvia Fay. What a name that was.
She was
always
amazing.
so nice.
She was amazing.
I one time took my friend Anthony down there. He wanted to meet Sylvia Fay, and I knew her. She was so sweet.
Yeah.
I said, you don't got to make an appointment. Come on, I'll take you down there.
She
When
was
she
the
showed me,
best.
she pinched my cheek.
Yes.
And she got my friend Anthony
She
right
was
in
old
there.
then.
Yeah.
She was old in 1992.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? I heard she passed away.
Yeah,
My
I was
friend
going to
Mike-
say, she can't be alive
My
now.
buddy Mike Tadros is a filmmaker also, and he
Yeah.
knew her very well.
Yeah.
His dad was I think president of Paramount many years ago,
Oh,
and
wow.
so he's in the industry, and he's, oh my God, Sylvia. As soon as you mention her name, it
She was
just
great.
smiles.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but I do think.
But here, real quick, before we
yeah.
go any further, the way the world is today, we would have never met on Aqueduct. You know why?
Why?
Because they would have used AI, and you guys wouldn't have even had to been there.
Well, that's what
Right?
ruined. That's what ruined. I mean, AI just was the nail in the coffin to I think the film industry, and films they just don't make films the way they used to anymore because everything is streaming, everything is Netflix, everything is Amazon Prime, and no one goes. There's no theaters. No one goes to the movies.
Yeah, but it's still, we actually just saw, what was it, the Bob Dylan? Yeah, we went to go see that.
Right.
There's no experience like a movie theater
100%.
experience. When you're watching like, not some piece of shit movie, you know, like just some cash cow. You know, it's a cash cow.
right.
They put a few big names in it.
Right.
They blow up half the world and it does box office. 3 years from now, we'll never even remember what that movie was about. You know, those kind of books. But then you get this like a real, like that Bob Dylan film was okay, but just say The Godfather just came out.
Yes.
And even in the world with streaming, all this stuff, you'd still want to go see that on the big screen.
Absolutely.
Right? That's the experience.
Well, you tell the story. The first time you saw yourself in Bronx Tale was the coming attraction of Bronx Tale.
Right. And we went to go see The Firm with Tom Cruise.
Right.
Not deliberately. We just went to the movie theater and that's what was showing. We walked, me and my cousins, we were out. It was summer night. We were hanging out on the street. One night we said, let's go see a movie.
Right.
And that's when we were. And the movie, The Bronx Tale was released September 30th, 93.
Right.
This is like July, August. So I
Yeah,
didn't
it takes
know.
a year to make it for a movie to come out.
No, but I'm saying
About a
it
year.
was a few months before and they
Yes.
were already advertising
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And that,
How'd you feel for seeing yourself for the first time?
very surreal.
Yeah.
And that, I've said this so many times, but it was a beautiful thing to experience when it happened. But you got to understand, your brain changes with every experience. It's called neuroplasticity. Can you imagine the way your brain changes after experiencing something like that?
Trying to replicate
The fucking, excuse my language, the dopamine.
Dopamine.
Right? All that's what drugs do.
Yes.
So now it's like you got this film and you're seeing yourself and you're like the man. You're like this big face on this 50-foot screen.
Yes.
It feels good.
It feels great.
It feels
right?
great.
Yeah.
And then you get addicted to that feeling. because it's like, oh my God, like I said, it imprints that memory in your brain. So now you crave for that to happen again.
Yeah.
But then you realize, like, oh my God, like, yeah, I did other films after that. And not to downplay any of them, because I worked with great people.
Man,
yeah, but I worked, Crimson, I worked with great actors,
huge
great people.
movies, right.
But it still wasn't the Bronx Tale. These weren't these weren't lead roles. They were co-starring, good, Crimson Tide was a big ensemble. You had so many brilliant actors in that.
Sure.
But it was a smaller part. But Bronx Tale, you're the movie, basically. You're the movie. The other films, if they take you out, like, Crimson Tide, I mean, it was still an important role, but still, it wasn't that. So now, the feeling that you're getting from seeing yourself is somewhat of what you felt, but it becomes more diluted.
Yes.
Then you discover drugs.
Yeah.
Okay? Then you discover drugs, and then you discover that maybe you can achieve that feeling again through this.
Yes.
But the problem with that is it does make you feel like that, but then you feel, there's what you're giving, and there's something that's being taken.
Right.
The other way when you're doing it, you know what I mean? Nothing's being taken. It's just good. But this now, like the movie's beautiful. And but this was like,
So tell me a little bit about that. And that's really, and you're so open to what you went through and your struggles and your time in prison and everything. And I have a lot of respect for you, man, because although you had that issue, although you had the drug problem, you still would stand up. I'm sure they would want you to cooperate against your co-defendant, Armento, right? Stephen Armento.
I had a deal. Right. I had a deal for 3 years.
Yeah.
I was facing life.
Right.
Can you imagine them to say, I'll give you 3 years right now if you tell on this guy? You know what I said? I'm not going to tell on him. Right. I got him in trouble. I bought him there that night. I'm not going to tell. If anything, he would tell on me. Like, I haven't done nothing. This guy got me in trouble.
Yeah, and it was such a technicality because a felony murder, as a burglary is a misnomer, right? I'm a criminal defense attorney.
Yeah.
And a burglary is just entering a dwelling with the intent to commit another felony. That's a burglary. That's it. And that's a very high level B felony in New York State. And you go to jail for a long time.
Yeah.
Add someone passing away under that circumstance, that's felony murder. You're looking at life.
Yeah, but the reason why I was able to beat it, we used the affirmative defense.
Yes.
To not commit the homicidal act, the whole thing. So because I got convicted of attempted burglary. I think
and Mel Sachs was your lawyer, right?
He was the first one.
Yes, I remember.
He was my first lawyer.
Old man.
Oh, I used to drive him nuts. But in a good way. Because
Yes.
he was the only guy and my ex-girlfriend at that time that could put a smile on my face. Because I was so stressed out.
remember
Not my mother, nobody else. I would call Mel, right? And one thing about that man, he always took my call. I don't give a shit if it was Saturday night at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'd call the number, and they would patch me through. He
We're
could
the
be at a
lifeline, man, to somebody.
if he was at a restaurant, wherever he was, and I'd call him up to ask him what I asked him 2 days before, like nothing, it's nothing urgent. It's just like I saw one little thing on TV that triggered me, and now I was on that cloud flying. Now I'm stressed out again. So now I need some instant gratification. So I got to call Mel.
Yeah.
Hey Mel, how you doing? All right. I just want to ask you.
Sorry to bother you.
Yeah. How does the case look? Oh, Lillo, I told you the case looks just great. That's what he would say. Looks just great. I bet you it does. I got no bail, and I'm not good, but it looks great.
Yes.
He's telling Lillo it looks just great. Yeah, I got to be sold on that.
So let me tell you something. I'm on the other side of the line telling you it looks great, right? I got to keep you strong.
Yeah, but
that's my job.
Yeah, but when he's saying it looks great, that's not enough for me. Yeah. You got to sell me on why. Well, oh, that's great. Can you tell me why? Well, Lillo, the law specifically states that if you didn't know there was the presence of a firearm, you can't be held legally responsible, Lillo. Lillo, you will be acquitted of felony murder. Sleep well. Yeah, sleep well. Right. That's easy for you to say.
And he was
You're going to go
though.
sit down. You got a New York strip waiting for you, mashed potatoes, and you know what I mean?
Yes.
So.
But the old man was right.
Okay, so that's what he would say,
yes.
right? Oh, thank you, Mel. Thank you so much. All right. 2 days later. Hey, Mel. How you doing? Yeah, not bad. How you doing? Everything all right? All right. No, I just wanted to call. I just wanted to know, how's the case look? Oh, that's great. Can you tell me why? And now he's a little different. Lillo, I just told you the other day, you don't know about the presence of a firearm. Lillo, they can't hold you criminally responsible. Lillo, don't worry, you're gonna be okay. Okay, that's the second call. All right. Few days later, one little thing triggered, and this was the nicest, most mild-mannered guy. Okay, I love that guy. My family loved him. He liked this cheese. My father used to get him. He was my family loved this guy.
I used to see him in Long Island all the time in court.
So now, 2 days later, something triggers me. I gotta call him. All right, same shit. Hey Mel, how you doing? No, I just I don't know. I saw something on TV and it just made me think. So I just wanted to call. I just wanted to know how's the case looking. Oh, all right, great. Well, can you tell me why? Lillo, you didn't know about the fucking gun.
You got after 3 or 4 calls.
Yo, that was the nicest guy when he said, "You don't know about the fucking gun. Leave me alone."
Yeah.
Then I didn't call him for about a week.
And asked him the same question. Yeah, but you got to stay strong. That's what it is.
I know.
I understand. I get it. And we're the only lifeline. And let me ask you, you're in Rikers, man. You're in a bed.
Yeah.
I mean, you were there, and people describe it. You don't get it. Rikers is bad.
Yes.
There's stabbings. There's drugs everywhere. It's gladiator school.
People
right?
throwing hot water on another guy's whole face peeling off.
It's
stuff
gladiator
like that.
school. It's bad. Who stuck by you? Because you were here, right? You were on top of the world, and then there was a decline because you started using drugs, right?
Right.
So take me back, man. So Bronx Tale comes out. You're on top of the world, right? And then, again, like I see you in the city one night, and you were by yourself. I was with my friends, and people were kind of giving you a hard time. I couldn't tell if you were doing something good or bad. Whatever. We kind of just bumped into each other, but people would give you a hard time when you went out. Like, they would bust your balls a little bit. I remember.
Yeah, people start fights all the time.
They would start troubling you.
Right, always. But I always have my friends with me. Trust me, we got into a lot of fights. Just because of straight jealousy. People see you.
1,000%.
They know, like maybe their girlfriend's like, oh my God, I love that guy from the movie. Then the boyfriend gets jealous. And then before you know it, and I wasn't a wise ass. I like to laugh.
Right. You weren't a fighter.
I like to laugh and have a good time. You know what I mean? But we would fight over.
What are you chasing in those days, bro? What attracts you to drugs and it gets worse and worse? Like, what are you chasing? Like, tell me about that.
I'm just all about an adrenaline rush, man. I really am. Remember the movie Heat? Remember Tom Sizemore when he told him, when De Niro said, "I think you should stay out of this one," and he said, "For me, the action is the juice. I don't give a shit about the money." I was always about an adrenaline rush. And then I found drugs and I figured, wow, this is some adrenaline rush. Whatever it is, even like I used to see a psychiatrist when I was a kid.
Yeah.
He knew that I would be an actor. He said, you would be good in the dramatic arts.
Yes.
But he said he knew because of your personality, my personality, that I would gravitate that. He goes, I knew you would do this.
You had addictive personality.
Yeah, very much so.
And you didn't have the guidance.
No.
You didn't have the guidance, and also you were thrusted into something you probably weren't ready for.
No, definitely not.
Right.
I don't think anybody's ever ready for that.
And it's funny because you go back and you talk about Chaz, right? And I met Chaz once or twice. I actually was at his house many, many years ago. And it's easy for people to condemn you, right? But who helped you? Like, who helped you along those lines? So no one really has the right to say something bad about you unless they try to help you. Because your spiral was for a long, long time. So you can't come home, the case can't happen, and then all of a sudden someone's going to talk bad about you. I don't think they have the right. Yeah. That's just my personal opinion. And I think you were set up, the word is that Chaz got $1 million for that movie, for Bronx Tale.
I believe he did, yeah.
And you got $25,000.
Yeah.
So you were set up, man.
Yeah.
For failure.
But he wrote it, though. He was the one who hung in there for many years because at one point I heard that the Bregmans, Martin Bregman of the Sea of Love, Unjustice for All, Dog Day Afternoon, Scarface, Carlito's Way, that was like, they wanted Al to play Sonny.
Okay.
That they optioned the script. It was going to be De Niro playing Lorenzo and so-and-so, and Chaz would not go for it.
Right.
He wanted to play Sonny.
He did a Sylvester Stallone and Rocky. He wanted to play the part.
I think obviously Pacino's a better actor than Chaz could ever be. But I think in that role, Chaz was more appropriate.
He played himself.
Yeah.
Do you never?
But you notice he was tall, thin.
Yeah.
You never saw a wise guy like that on
No.
the script. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just wasn't. A lot of times, like a lot of these, like a guy like Paulie Walnuts, even though he was great, you know what a caricature is, right?
Sure.
Like an exaggerated portrait.
It's exactly what you would think. Central
Right.
casting.
Right.
Yes.
Paulie Walnuts, his appearance, he played the part great. But the way he looked, it was like a caricature of
Right.
what it was, right? With the hair.
He looked
and
the part.
Right. But a guy like Chaz, he wasn't the obvious tall, slim guy like that, but he was awesome. And it was refreshing to see that portrayal of that type of character
Yeah.
by someone who played it like him and was physically built the way
And it
he
was very real. I mean,
Absolutely.
very realistic.
Yes.
It was very real to life. It was very street in the way the things are now. And I say too, a lot of times I was kind of like a Bronx Tale because I had a mentor in my college years who was a lawyer, and he was an Italian. He was a Sicilian lawyer who actually represented guys on the Pizza Connection trial. His name was Mario Malerba, and he took me under his wing.
I thought you were going to say, what's his name? No, the Sicilian. Arthur Iadala.
Oh, Arthur too. Yeah, Arthur's much younger than Mario.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Mario's got to be now.
Because I know Arthur's Sicilian. He was
Yes.
Tacopina's boy. And one time he
Yes.
came to see me at Rikers,
Yes.
and we were speaking the
And
Sicilian.
Tacopina represented you at trial.
Right.
Correct.
And
Right.
but one time Arthur was at Rikers, and he said, "Go say hello to Lillo since you're going to be there." And I never knew this guy. And then he's there. He's like, "Yeah, I'm Arthur. I'm Joe's friend."
Yeah,
He told
good
me
guy.
so-
I actually ran into him recently at a fundraiser. He was at a fundraiser, and just a nice guy. Just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
Arthur's a good guy.
very, very charismatic.
Joe
guy.
too. Both goes.
Yeah, I had a case with Joe many years ago. I used to run into Joe at MDC, the federal jail in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
All good guys. You're in that world. You know, you went from Mel Sachs, who's kind of like a Nassau County Queens guy, Bronx guy. You know, it's funny also that your case was in the Bronx, and I love trying cases in the Bronx. I actually had a double homicide in the Bronx.
Right, it's easier, right?
Bronx are good juries for defendants. Absolutely. So it's always better to try a case in the Bronx as opposed to
Manhattan.
Suffolk County,
Or Manhattan.
Manhattan, or Nassau County, conservative types of. So it's strategically also. So going back to now, you're coming off Bronx Tale, and you also do the Sopranos, right? What part of that is that before the incident happened?
Yeah. All
So
that
that's
was
all
before. Yeah.
Tell me about the Sopranos because you don't talk about that too much. How was it working with like James Gandolfini?
Gandolfini was great. I worked with him on Crimson Tide, so I knew him for
Okay.
many years. You know what I mean?
How did you get the Sopranos?
I auditioned. I auditioned the first season. I didn't get a part. I got played for Christopher's friend, Brendan Fallone. We didn't even know the show was going to get picked up, and then it was like a very big deal. So they brought me back in for Bevilacqua.
And that became how many shows did you do? That?
I did 5, and then I was in a flashback.
Okay.
So 6 episodes.
And they killed you.
Yeah.
They killed you off.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You know, it's real quick, just a funny little thing with The Sopranos. Like, my wife had never seen The Sopranos till I met her, so I made her run through them. And when your part came on, I actually said to her, I said, this is when you know this man's such a good actor, because I looked up to this man like, watching The Bronx Tale as a kid. It's like, and then for you to make me hate you and want you to get killed in The Sopranos, I'm like, that means this guy's an incredible actor. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's funny because he's a different generation than us. So Bronx Tale, my kids' generation, Sopranos. So this stands the test of time. So you really made something that's going to be around
Yeah.
forever. So you should be I'm very, very nice. Very
Yeah, the
very-
way I
should be
look at
very
it, if
proud.
they took it all away from me right now,
Yeah.
I still got those 2 things that will
Yes.
live forever.
Okay, so if you could go back, right, would you still have gone to the beach that day? If you could change your life, would you still have wanted to get Bronx Tale, the part? Or tell, because it so much happened. Good and
I
bad.
would, but I just would have made better decisions after.
Right.
Because like when you're not addicted to drugs, it's very easy to just not do them the first time. It's like trying a new food. Nah, I'm all right. But when you already got a taste of the food and it's good and now you're on a diet, then it's hard to say no because it's like, damn, I love the way. You know what I mean?
So you have no regrets as far as the movie is concerned.
No.
And you still love the movie?
A Bronx Tale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious because I had my own issues when I was younger. I had gotten shot. I was paralyzed. And I went through, I'll tell you a very funny thing, okay? When I was in a wheelchair and I was paralyzed, my mom used to push me, right? And we would go through a door. And if you held the door for me, I would get angry. if you didn't hold the door for me, I'd get angry. And that's where I was mentally in those days when I was 21, paralyzed, like, you know. So, but I don't regret it. If I could change it, I still would get hurt because it ultimately made me the man I am today. And I think you feel the same way about everything. It's our journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's the journey.
I don't know why I bring this up, but that shit happened. And I knew a kid named Bundy. That's his name, Bundy Fatia. He lives near where I live. He's still, kid's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I wasn't there, but there are guys from the neighborhood that said the night before the incident that he said, because he worked for the sanitation department, and he said maybe one of these days I'll jump in the thing and I'll let the thing crush my legs and I'll get the money. He'd let that happen.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
It's a terrible injury.
But I think he did it on purpose.
Right, on purpose. It's a really crazy
There's
injury.
a couple of guys that were there the night before
That's what he said.
that were credible, honest guys that I know would not lie about something to this. There's nothing they gain. And I know their personalities. And a few guys said, yeah, he said that.
And he got hurt the next day at work.
The next day, yes. Yeah, in the truck. He fell in the thing and he got his legs fucking crushed. And he's still around.
Also, karma has no expiration date either. So you never know. It can happen the next day. It can happen 100 years later. Very odd thing. All right. So tell me a little bit about, tell me about what you're doing today. You're working with people that are in rehab and right?
Well, yeah. I was never, I went to a few meetings, when I first came home from prison, obviously we know I got in trouble. Cop was, I did my time.
Yeah, everybody knows the story.
But I did my time. I came out a better person. That's all really that matters. Some people come out worse. I came out better. That's the whole reason why that happens to us.
Yes.
Okay, because God recognizes maybe this person's not going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Let me slow them down, put them there, give them a few years.
Clip your wings a little
right.
bit.
And a place where he could think or she could think about where they want their life to go and in what direction. But what were we just saying before that?
Talk about what you're doing now.
Okay. So when I first came home, obviously I'm in recovery. So it was, I was strongly advised by so many people, you should go to meetings. And literally my cousin, she was on me the first night, my cousin Marilena. She said, you got to go to meetings, this and that. She goes, I got my friend Jay, friends with her husband. He goes to meetings and I can call him right now and he'll come pick you up. And we did. That first night I went to a meeting.
You wanted to help too.
Right. Everybody was.
It.
So now I go to these meetings and then I went to one in my high school. Imagine that, circle back to now in my high school, New Year's Eve, going to a meeting. So I'm at the meeting.
And you were away for what, 8 years?
8 years, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm at this meeting and I really, it was all right. It was cool just because, I got my freedom again. So it was like I was grateful to be there. But then as time went on, these things overstayed their welcome. And it's just like it was very repetitive to me. And I just started to see the way I was and what they were saying there, that this is a disease and it never goes away and this and that. The way I was feeling and the way my brain was changing and working, just contradicting everything they're saying.
Tell me about
So
that.
then I said to myself, I don't need to hear this poison. Because it's like sometimes these addicts want to feel like they have this superpower, that they're in recovery, that it's so crazy, that only people like us can do this, that we got to go to meetings forever. Why would you want to go to meetings and keep reminding yourself? It just doesn't make sense to me. After, like, if you're working a good program, if I'm relapse, it just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't, to be able to go to meetings 20, 30 years later. Your life should have changed by then to where you no longer look for these things.
People are sober 30 years.
Right.
And they're going to meetings for 30 years.
But that doesn't make sense to me. You're missing out. It's to save your life. But the whole thing is, let's go back to what I'm doing. I work at a rehab. I'm Director of Public Relations, More Life Recovery in Metuchen, New Jersey. Someone took notice on, social media that I was posting a lot of inspirational stuff. So I was getting a lot of traction from it and people loved it. So someone said, well, you're doing great and this and that. Why don't you come do that for us? And that was my friend Steve Barone. He's one of the owners at More Life. And he was with another company called Amatus. Okay. It was a dual diagnosis, mental health and addiction. That was out in Maryland. It was okay. I mean, I liked working there, but it wasn't because it was in Maryland and I wasn't there all the time.
Right.
What I was doing there was limited. It was definitely great and definitely a step in the very right direction. But then when when Stevie and the guy there, Michael, they parted, Steve had opened his own treatment center with a few of his partners, and I worked there. And like I said, I'm there every week, and it's a job, but at the same time, it's a symbiotic relationship. It's beneficial to them and to me.
Right. It keeps you sharp as well.
And it keeps me plugged in to where I need to be, because like I'll see these kids and like, oh my God, you were that kid. Like, a lot of times I didn't even realize I was the kid from the movie. Like, holy shit, like, what are you doing here?
Right.
And like, I got in trouble myself, and I was, did this and this. So now it's like, oh my God, I didn't know that. No, my mom.
And who are you
loves
seeing? You're seeing kids, young kids?
Well, sometimes there's older. It's different,
So what are you telling them? Give me an idea of what you're telling them. Somebody was troubled. Because it's a hard thing.
Well, you have so many different people with so many different situations. So the way I like to do it is we sit in a group, and everybody's up against the wall like that. So I just go around the room. And whatever applies to them, I can't really say. I say one thing. It depends on what dilemma they're facing, what's going on in their life. And then based on my own past experience and how I may have navigated through a similar situation when I was going through it, maybe I could say, well, hey, this worked for me. You know what I mean? Like real stuff that you can understand.
But you got sober in jail, correct?
I did, yes.
On your own.
Right.
You didn't take a program or anything when you were upstate?
Well, you had to, yeah. But I was sober by then already.
Okay.
Talk about 3 years in Rikers, because I was getting high in Rikers.
Right. I heard that. You had talked about that. So tell me, how did you get sober on your own?
Well, I overdosed in my cell. I still got high. And then I saw my friend who's a lawyer, Corey Rabin, my cousin Pat. They came to see me on an attorney visit.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you OD'd in your cell.
Yeah.
Okay.
November 12th, 2006. So, and I still did it after that. You would think the rock bottom was when, the person died.
Yeah.
That wasn't rock bottom, because I'm still using it with a vengeance. With a vengeance. I am nowhere near finished. Nowhere near. I was doing whatever I can, getting money from whoever I can, from my parents, lying to them, telling them these bloods are after me, they're going to kill me. I got a pack of cigarettes, you got to send the guy money. None of that was happening. It was just so I could keep doing drugs. I was scaring my parents into them sending money, because, old school Italian parents, they're home. They'll do anything, especially they know you're in this situation. They're afraid for you, and they're going through it. So if you're telling them I'm going to get killed, they're going to send money. They don't want to, but it is what it is, and this is what addiction does. But then in November, then I overdosed, and then they came to see me, and they said, "What the hell's going on?" Like, it really sunk in that day. That they said, "You keep doing this, no one's going to be there for you."
And that was your lawyer.
Yeah,
your lawyer, and who else?
Well, he wasn't my lawyer. He was I used to work for him at his law office.
Yeah.
He was giving me $9.50 an hour in 1992.
Yeah.
Imagine that. My cousin Pat is a judge today.
Yeah.
When I got the audition for Bronx Tale, his family knew Corey too. He's a real estate attorney. My dad used to do closings through him. That's how he knew us. He knew me since I was a kid. Friend. Yeah, but he knew him since I was a kid. So I told my cousin Pat, I said, listen, I got the audition for the Bronx Tale, because he read for it. He didn't get it. Mm-hmm. I said, I got the audition for the movie. Why don't you fill in for me at Corey's? Because he knew Corey. And then I kept getting called back. I got the part, and he's a judge now.
That's so funny.
So, but you stay plugged in, and now you're meeting all these kids, and you're helping them, and you could see, because then they're Lillo, hey man, I'm sober this whole week, and then you could see what you're doing is but you could see it's working.
Yeah.
So now it's like it's working because you're working it as well, and you're providing a good role model. You're providing a good influence.
What you become.
Right.
You become
so
a role model, right?
They live through you, and a lot of times some of their sobriety and their success in that depends on you, because they're looking up to you for guidance, right? But now if you fall, they're going to fall too. Yeah. So now it's like I got to stay extra strong, because it's not only me.
You have people.
Now I got these people, right? They're counting on me to stay a certain way. And at the same time, I don't want them to go through that. I know what it's like. I see my mother and father cry. My father was a tough
Your parents
guy.
Are still around?
My father passed away.
Sorry to hear
but thank you. My father was a tough, construction old school guy.
Old school guy.
This guy was strong and tough as they get. But when it came to me, I would see him cry on the couch.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think about those moments, and it's what keeps making me want to do this with a passion, because I know there's so many parents out there that cry daily for their children, and I'm in a position where I could maybe help some of that. Not all of it, but I could help some of that, and that's what God wants me to do.
Well, I see a lot of moms and dads come to see me, and there was a lot of heroin a few years back. It's not as bad as it was, but I can tell you, I can count on two hands, just off the top of my head, the people that I lost, clients that I lost, young kids, young girls, teenage girls. One girl, she had gotten arrested. The mom came to see me, and she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I got to try to get her sober, and I'm going to keep her away from all the triggers. And, you know, as a lawyer, you try to do the best you can. You want to, you know, you're as supportive as you can, but, you know, you're powerless because it's a monster you're fighting in the family. And you could see the mom, she's just so hopeless. She's hopeless. And she's like, yeah, she passed away. She's not coming to court Tuesday. She died on Saturday. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
She died? Yeah, she was in her room.
That's what happens in that world.
She was in her room alone.
Yeah.
And somehow she got it.
Yeah.
And she OD'd.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. So you're so lucky. You know, you're lucky to be alive.
I was talking to this girl, Celine, right? You remember her, right? She had a twin brother, Primo. Okay? I'm 48. He's 45, 46. So the girl, Celine, was like, hey, little Lillo, she reached out to me. She goes, this is a long shot. Attractive girl, very attractive girl, worked out. She said to me, she said, Lillo, my brother Primo, he's my twin brother. Mm-hmm. So we're very close. I love him. They used to work out together. Yeah, like really. And she's like, but he likes the heroin and we're trying to keep him good and maybe you could reach out to him and stuff like that. So I did.
Yeah.
I did it on my own. And then she said, my brother called me. She said, oh my God, Lillo really reached out to me. So like everything was going great with this guy. Like, Primo, blah, 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 blah. 2-3 days later, she messages me. She said, Primo's dead. I went to the funeral, the wake and everything.
I can't believe it.
It was just good. I just talked to the guy.
Yeah.
I just talked to him. 2 days, he's dead? That's what happens in that world.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you get people say, oh, Lillo, my son's sober 6 months now. But then you get Lillo, remember my son Freddie that you helped? He's
incredible.
Dead. But now
it's darkness. You just get those dark moments.
Well, now the heroin's probably not as bad because now nobody even wants heroin. Now they want fentanyl.
Yeah.
At the rehab, you go give them heroin, they don't even want it. Right. They want this stuff. If they heard their friend died from that fentanyl, that's where they go get it because they know it's that strong.
Yeah, so would you say it's a sickness? Would you categorize it as a sickness?
As a disease?
As a disease,
no,
yeah.
I don't.
You don't.
I don't. I think it's a spiritual disorder. Something is wrong with your spirit. How could it be a disease, right? Mm-hmm. Just listen to
the addiction. I think people say is because you keep going back to it.
Yeah, but
that's the disease.
Yeah, but
right?
it's a personality trait.
Right.
Because once you get over drugs, you got that personality. I'm addicted to working out now.
Right. Well, so now it's a positive.
Right, but still, it's going to manifest. It's going to manifest elsewhere. It's the personality trait. We can't really change. We're supposed to accept the things we cannot change. That's part of the serenity prayer, which I don't know if the people in the rooms wholeheartedly do. Except that you do have they try to make you go from Jack the Ripper to Gandhi. Yeah. And that's why a lot of people relapse. Because sometimes the program is it's unrealistic for where the person just came from. Yeah. It takes a long time to get, I just think the approach
Okay, so you're in Rikers. So take me back, because that's really important. You're in Rikers. I mean, you almost died. You OD'd. But then you said, people came to see you. That was your rock bottom? Because even though it's still so hard for you, like what changed? What clicked?
He just said, you're not going to have these people, they're going to, everybody's here. We want to see you beat the case. We're all supporting you. But if you keep doing this, there's going to be nobody here for you.
And that's what changed?
Yeah, I don't know why, but maybe,
But so what? Like what? So what,
I don't know. Maybe I was just ready to hear it that day.
Yeah.
Because, they say you're going to hear it when you're ready to, and you're going to change when you're ready to. I was maybe ready to that day.
And what steps did you take? You just did it on your own?
That's it.
That was it.
I was in the box, so it's not like I could really, you could get it. It's a little harder. Yeah. You ask around, you probably.
It's amazing you get drugs like that in jail.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
Crazy.
So, but then I just made that conscious decision. I'm never going to get high again.
And that was it.
And that's it. And I never got high again. I don't even think about it. That's why when these people said, oh, it's a disease, it doesn't go away. You got to come to these. Are you joking me? I've been around this stuff a million times after that. My life has headed in such a different direction to where my new addiction takes precedence over my old one, which means now I'm working out. I was just talking to Michael about this the other day, talking about how I have the casein protein at night to keep my muscles full.
As you're sleeping.
Because it's feeding them overnight. Because that's how addicted I am into working out. That I want to keep the belly of the bicep full, right? So if I go do drugs, it's going to eat all my muscle. My addiction now is working out.
Is health.
So I don't even think about that. I'm more addicted to the way, the working out and this.
That's amazing.
But it changes. That's why keep going to meetings and talking about this stuff
I agree.
that you want to change from your life. It doesn't make sense. It's just,
I agree.
It doesn't.
I've had success stories in my practice. I got one kid, a Greek kid, and he was on Rikers, and I'm like, bro, you got a little girl, man. What's wrong with you? You're gonna die.
Yeah.
And he was he's an operating engineer, the kid. Good kid, really nice kid.
My brother's operator.
Yeah, and he was high on the machine. If you can imagine that, right? How dangerous that is.
Yeah, you hit a gas line, you blow up the whole city.
And he passed out on the machine, on the digger, and cops wake him up. And it's a DWI.
Of course
it is,
it
right?
is.
So prior to that, he had a domestic incident with his wife, and he had order protection, and he kept getting high and calling her, and she kept violating him. And the DWI violated him, and they remanded him to Rikers. So I get a call from another lawyer, George. Listen, I got a criminal case for you, but this kid's a real criminal. And I'm like, how bad could he be?
Yeah.
And he wasn't. I mean, the kid turned out to be a sweetheart. But the way George, who's a real estate attorney, perceived him, he's a criminal. Like, really? Let's see how bad the kid is, right?
Yeah.
And I started losing my patience a little bit with him. And I'm like, I can't waste my time with you if you're not you got to meet me halfway. And he did. And he's got to be sober now for about a year. He's almost finished with probation. He sees his little girl. He takes 70 pictures of him and his little girl, and so man. There are some happy stories out there. But I think the way you look at it, and I think if the way you teach it, right, and you share your story is very important. Because it's not, it's not a disease necessarily.
No, it's not. Listen, think about if you got stage 4 cancer and you're diagnosed with it and the doctor gives you a month to live. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing in your control to change that fate,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, that's stoicism. That's,
okay.
Right.
So now you're telling me addiction's a disease, right? You're a full-blown crackhead. Say like you're in the same stage as the cancer, but you're in stage 4 of crack addiction.
Yeah.
Is it going to kill you, or do you have the power right now to say, I never want to smoke again?
You
right?
got that power.
It's
That's
not
the
a
choice.
disease.
Right. You have that choice.
A disease will kill you even
Right.
when you don't want it to kill you.
Exactly correct.
Okay?
Cancer is a disease, and you can't do anything about that.
This you can.
Right. Yes.
So sometimes, here's the thing. It may not, I don't categorize it as a disease, but because it does have characteristics as such as we just spoke about, you're the only one that can change it, and you can do it right now, but you still can't. You're powerful to it, but you're also powerless at the same time.
Is it a discipline? Is it a self-discipline?
Sometimes I think that is more deep. Sometimes I think that's worse. Because you see the destruction, that all you have to do is change this one thing about you to get all of that back.
Right, your life back.
And you still don't do it.
Yeah.
So that sometimes is worse, because if you get the guy who's got 4-stage cancer, you tell him, listen, for the next hour, you'll have a chance to turn this.
Do it.
He's going to do whatever he has to
100%.
do.
Right.
But the other guy's smoking crack, and he knows his wife just left, took the kids, and he just lost his family. And he knows in his mind that if he stops right now, maybe he won't get the kids back tomorrow, but maybe in a few months his wife sees that he stopped.
Yeah.
She may say, all right, he's the man that I married. Once again, I love this guy. Let's be together for the kids. Right? You know what I mean?
So what's that element? What's missing?
Everybody, it's different.
Right.
You never know. I was working with this kid. His name is Mario. Okay? And I spoke to his mom and dad. My dad knows, my brother knows the family. And he said, ladies are real. The mother, father, and the brother, they love him. And it reminds me of my family.
Yeah.
The way my brother.
Right.
But I always ask, like, is there something that's happened to him? Or maybe like his father left him when he was young.
Yeah, you're trying to go deeper.
Right, because there's always something. Like in The Sopranos, Tony had the anxiety attacks because of meat. Because remember, he saw his father cut the guy's...
Yeah.
And that traumatic experience, every time he was around meat. So there's always something that triggers that. Just the way that one thing triggered those anxiety attacks, there's one thing that triggers a craving to go get high. There's something that's happening. Maybe you don't realize it, or maybe you do realize it. You know what I mean? So I'm talking to this kid, Mario. So I asked his mom, and I said, something happened. And she said, yeah, he was with a girl for a long time that he cared about. She got pregnant, and she didn't want to have the baby. So now he feels worthless. Why didn't this girl want to have the baby, my baby?
Right.
And that would mess me up too.
Yeah.
And, you know, and not to say he's a bad kid, he's a good kid. And maybe he was so emotionally, you know, affected by that this is the only way he knows how to cope.
Yeah.
And this kid was like near dying, and he's like in his 30s. And this is from alcohol. Do you know how much you got to drink?
A lot. Sure.
I know a kid, Mikey, too. He was 36. His esophagus exploded.
From alcohol. Yeah. You're drinking a lot.
Yeah, a lot. This is like a pint every day.
Right.
And this is what happened.
So you see everything. You see alcohol addiction, drug addiction.
And I got to be honest with you, the ones that come through for the alcohol and even the benzodiazepines, because those withdrawals are the worst.
Yeah.
And you need like medication and stuff like, you know, like heroin and stuff. Yeah, they give you methadone if you choose,
Right.
or Suboxone, which is an opiate blocker that mimics the effects.
Right.
So your brain, but you don't have to. It will ease the withdrawal symptoms, but it's not something that if you don't have it, you'll die. Alcohol, people think because you can go down the street and get it at the store. When you're an alcoholic and you drink a certain amount of alcohol for an extended period of time, your body will become psychologically, mentally, and of course physically addicted to alcohol. When the people like that are coming through for alcohol, they gotta take Librium. They gotta take these. Your body will seize. It's the most dangerous withdrawal out of any drug, and that's alcohol.
Wow.
And I've seen it with my own eyes. You will die, you know,
That's
if
amazing.
you're not properly medicated. With heroin, it's more of like a luxury, just so you can a little smoother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A little smoother crash. But the other way, it's a necessity, or you will die.
I think the way it sounds to me, it's almost like a journey, and it comes full circle. So it's almost like you're a kid, you experience all this, you feel the success, this fame, and you're trying to mimic that dopamine rush of who you were, right? And then you start doing all these different types of drugs, but then you spiral down and you hit that rock bottom, and you're not really looking. You don't really want the dopamine rush anymore. Maybe you want your life back, right? Maybe that I think there comes a point where the drug is not as important to the people that love you, the people that are around you. Maybe that's what it kind of sounds like your journey.
Yeah.
For you know, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it's different for everybody,
Yeah,
right?
of course. Everyone's, you know, and also, you know, one thing, a few words that I could say to kind of sum up what is in my life is the work that I didn't do before, I'm doing now.
Right.
Because I got that movie, I didn't work for it. It's like
Right.
people like John Bernthal would have done anything to have landed a role like that. And
they
I didn't
worked
work.
years for that.
Right.
Sure.
And you know what I mean? So
Amazing.
the work that I didn't do, I'm doing now.
Okay. And just a words of wisdom. Kids that are having issues right now that are on drugs and spiraling out of control, what would you tell them?
Well, first I would tell them to sit down and really think about what is missing in their life. Because until they find out what it is that's causing that kind of behavior, they're going to just keep. I saw this rabbi on Instagram. He's got a page. And he said, drugs aren't the problem. Drugs are the solution to the problem.
Right.
And when I heard that, it changed
makes
my
a
whole
lot
life.
of sense.
Yes. The problem is the trauma that whatever
What
he
are
or
you trying
she
to hide?
has
What are you
endured
masking? Right.
throughout their life. And now dealing with this trauma is, you know, self-medication. So it's not really, so you got to, the first thing I would do to try to work with someone is to find out. I would talk to them and tell me a little bit about your childhood and this and that. And then maybe you could learn a little bit about the person as to why they chose this path in
What's
life.
the void?
Right?
Right.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know that. Oh, okay. So your dad left. So you must have like, wow, you were devastated, huh? And how old were you? Okay. Do you still talk to your dad? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now you know that's a big void that they needed to fill in their life. You know what I mean?
What you do is spiritual. Really it really is spiritual. It's almost like even when I talk to somebody and they open up about their life, for me, this is spiritual. And I think you get that every day when you help someone. It's so spiritual because we connect on we're so open to each other. We connect on such an intimate level. And really we're all bound by love. And if you peel the onion back enough, we're all bound by love. And that's...
You know what it's amazing because I've gotten such a great reaction. When I was in prison, I had a violent crime. So, like you were saying, the drug programs, I had to take an anger management program because it's a violent crime, and a drug program because my crime was drug fueled. So when we took ART, aggression replacement training, ART, so I remember one of the things we did was describe and define the different kinds of anger. Like rage is defined as out of control anger. Okay? Do you know what depression is defined as?
What?
Anger turned inward on ourselves.
Yeah.
And even when I heard that, it put it a little more into perspective.
Right.
Because we're depressed, and that depression is a form of anger turned inward on ourselves.
Sure.
So now the question is, why am I angry? What is causing my depression? What is the source? What is the anger? Why am I angry as to why I'm depressed? And once, you know what I mean? And when, and I got my own podcast, The Culture Project with a K. I got to plug it, right?
Absolutely.
But a couple of the guests, because that's what I ask all our guests, because, like it's with my bosses at the treatment center. So one question I ask every guest is, how do you deal with depression? Okay. And a lot of times, like when you tell people like that, depression is defined as anger turned inward on ourselves. You get the
the light bulb goes off.
like, wow, I didn't know that. And then I was talking to this one guy, Tonio Skits. He does these skits. And this guy almost crying. He was almost crying because he said, I was angry at my mom. Because after my dad died, my mom used to have guys come over. I used to beat them up because I was angry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why. And then it put it into perspective for him.
Yes.
And the guy's eyes got glassy
Sure.
and stuff like
You
that.
go back to our eight-year-old pretty fast.
Oh, he told me a story that was so sad. He said his mom was sick, so she missed his graduation. And then he said when he came home from the graduation, his mom had died.
Oh, my goodness.
And he said when he came home, he said there was all people. He saw his relatives. And he said for like 2 seconds, I thought they were there for my graduation.
Oh, my God.
He said, but then I seen my uncle's face and I knew there was no way that they were there for that, just what I saw on his face. That's a sad story, right? For that 2 seconds.
He's probably 12 or like 13 years old.
Yeah. And and stuff like that. You feel for people, man. You feel for people.
That's
People
what
don't
it is.
become what they are. You know what I mean? You got to find out why they became like that.
You do. You got to feel for people. You have to be open-minded. You can't be judgmental.
No.
And you just got to go into a situation with understanding and love. And that's probably how I practice law.
Yeah.
And it's, believe it or not, both of what we do is very similar. It's a vocation where you help people, I help people. It's the same thing. We see them at different times in their lives, Yeah. So.
Well, since you're a lawyer, man, I gotta.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, because it bothers me. It's about my case.
Sure.
And I believe this. I believe this could have got me off. And sometimes I do my own closing arguments. She's heard it a million times. This is what I would have done in the closing arguments because there were two witnesses that needed translators because they were the Montalvos. Mm-hmm. They heard a male voice screaming, Kenny! Kenny! That was me after I had been shot. Right. So these are not statements. I got blood. These are spontaneous utterances.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm spontaneously uttering all this crazy shit that's telling you what my subconscious is thinking, right? So this would have been my closing arguments. I said, ladies and gentlemen, jury, I like to think we put together a pretty good case with a lot of great facts and a lot of great information. But there's one fact in particular I'd like to turn your attention to. Do you remember the two witnesses, the Montalvos? And you remember what they testified to, that they heard a strange and unfamiliar male voice in the middle of the night yelling, Kenny! Kenny! Which we later on established was my client, Lillo Brancato. Now let me tell you why that's so important. Lillo Brancato screamed, Kenny! Kenny! After he had been shot. He's got blood leaking out of his stomach. He's going to die, okay? And he screamed, Kenny! Not for the guy he was there with, Armento. He didn't scream, Mommy! He didn't scream, police! He screamed, Kenny. And Kenny is the residence, or who lived in the residence, that they're saying that Lillo was trying to break into. And we know what a burglary is, right? When you knowingly enter and remain unlawfully with the intent to commit a crime therein. And if you felt that you had license or privilege to be there, it's not a burglary. Now, let me tell you why their theory is wrong and why this could never be a burglary. Lillo didn't scream for the other people. He screamed for Kenny. Because, and this is when Lillo's about to die. And he screamed for Kenny because this is where he thought he had his most legitimate shot at getting help. Now, if that doesn't say that these two men were friends and that my client, Lillo Brancato, had license or privilege to be in the residence, I don't know what else does. Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to you all.
That's a good closing argument.
Are you kidding me?
That's an amazing closing
The
argument.
fucking jurors would have ate that up because they would have said why. We didn't even think about that before.
Well, Kenny is the guy.
And he's a bro. Yes.
Right.
I told you he's my friend.
Right.
This is not a thought out
You're already
statement. This
welcome
is
there.
a spontaneous utterance. I'm screaming for one guy because he is my friend. I'm
the one that's gonna
dying,
help
bro.
him. Right.
I got nothing in my legs. My legs are giving out. I'm dying. I'm losing all this blood. And that's when I knew. Because at first, you fight or flight, your adrenaline, you're invincible.
Yeah.
But then a little while
catches
later,
you.
it starts
Right.
becoming diluted. You know the name of the game more than me. All they had to do was, why didn't he?
Doubt. Right.
Why did he call? That's reasonable doubt.
Yeah, you could have walked out of that room.
I know I could have. I told my lawyer, we don't need it. What do you mean you don't need it? Because you went to law school? I'm a pretty smart guy too. I know for a fact, and exactly what you said before. This is a Bronx jury. They would have understood every single word I said, and they would have known that this is not what we think it is.
Yeah. Well, for the record,
Maybe this guy is his friend.
For the record, I would have used that. If you told me that I was your lawyer, I would have said that in my closing. Absolutely.
You don't think I could have beat the case like
I would
that?
have walked you out.
Right or wrong?
I would have walked you out.
So you're hearing it from an attorney, you over there sitting, in case you think I'm just some blabbermouth who likes to think I'm smart.
24 years.
Okay.
Criminal defense attorney. I would have walked you out.
Because you know what it is? That's a very easy explanation. It's easily understandable.
Yeah.
You had the Montalvos. They said, we heard a voice. It was Lillo.
Right.
We established that.
Right. You're screaming for the owner of the press. So people.
So how are you robbing them
Right.
when you're about to die and you're calling them for help?
Yeah. It's the last.
You
guy
don't
you're
call
gonna
people for help that you're about to rob. It's not consistent. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
I would have got off that. But then again, God didn't want that for me because I was still a little shaky, even though I was sober from November. Even though
You were sober at the trial. Okay.
Yeah, I got
Right.
sober November 22nd, 2006. I went to trial 2 years later.
Wow.
Okay, so
Rikers a long time.
yeah, we started trial November 24th. So literally almost 2 years. So I've been sober.
Right.
But if I would have went home and I would have beat the case,
Yeah.
I would have been on every TV.
Yeah.
My head would have been like
not
this.
sitting here today.
I would have had a couple of drinks maybe, and I would have ruined my mother's whole Christmas. I would have been back on drugs. So maybe that's why it happened.
It's very possible.
But-
God closes one door and opens up three.
I knew for a fact. I said, this case is so beatable. They're trying to put me away for 1,000,000 years. This is nothing of what you guys are saying. You're making it out to be like I'm some crazy guy coming out and doing this. No, I was an addict, and this shit just happened like this.
Yeah.
If he would have stayed in his house and waited for the backup, and you know what I mean, and he came out, he shot me, and I even have the civil case.
Yeah.
I'll show you how that was dismissed, and the burden of proof is much
lower. It's
much lower, and you
preponderance.
still. By preponderance of evidence, the
much
weight
lower.
of the more reliable evidence.
Correct.
You know, we try to do the bankruptcy thing. You know, like how you just wipe
Yes,
off, but you
right.
can't because this is an intentional tort.
Intentional tort. Right.
That was a negligent. Believe me,
So
I did
the
everything.
civil case was dismissed as well.
Yes. I have it. I think the sister, the estate. I think because it got dismissed and then it went up to the appellate court.
Right. They appealed it.
Yeah, they appealed it. They appealed something about using low frequency radios where it was a priority call and MOS, a member of the service.
Right.
So a different and higher frequency radio communication should have been used. And the judge, he rejected
didn't
it.
buy it.
And
That was it.
and that was it.
Wow.
And listen, I'm not trying to the family's the family.
Of course.
They lost a loved one, and still to this day, even though I was told don't apologize, I am apologizing because he was 28, I was 29. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And he had a whole life to live, and so do I. And I just wish things could have turned out different.
Yes.
That's all. He didn't deserve to die. I just wish things could have turned out different. That's it.
No, that's honorable. Very
Yeah,
honorable.
and to his family too.
I tell you,
I still pray for them every day.
Yeah. No, it's I almost died too. And I didn't even realize that we both were shot in our life. So we've got that in common too. So that trauma as well. Sometimes I know I could beat somebody's case, and I don't know if it's the right thing for them. You know what I mean? I know
Maybe this guy needs to go away for a few years.
He needs a lesson, and like I know I could walk somebody out of that trial. I'm gonna walk him out. I'm gonna walk you out, bro. You know how powerful that is when I say that? And I mean, I'm gonna walk you fucking out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I walk you out, you're gonna walk yourself back in 6 months.
Yeah.
And I know it. You know, they're not ready.
The recidivism rate is high because of people like you.
Yeah.
I know it's messed up, but
you've come a tremendous way, brother.
thank
I
you.
appreciate you so much. Thank you so much.
kidding me?
Like I said, this is spiritual for me, man. The way we
and
connected.
it's spiritual for me too.
Yes,
You got my head
yes.
like this right now, telling me that I could have beat the case like
I
that.
would have walked you out.
I want a retrial.
What year was this? Hold on. What year was it? What year was this again? What
It was
year was the trial?
2008.
Okay.
It was right at the end of the year. I got in
I was
trouble.
a lawyer in 01, in 2001. So
I got in trouble December 10th, 2005.
Yeah.
And then for 9 days, we were in Jacoby Hospital, then Bellevue, and then we went to Rikers. December 19, 2005.
Yeah, I remember the case. I remember.
And I left Rikers, I think it was like January 9th to 10th, 2009. I had 3 years and some change there.
Yeah, that's hard time.
Yeah, and see, because I had the co-defendant. But my lawyer, Joe, said, you don't want to go on trial next to this
not
guy.
at
He
all.
goes,
You
he
got
goes,
the
you go-
severance.
So, you
Severance was
know what we used?
What?
The Bruton rule.
Okay.
The right to cross-examination.
Cross-examine him.
Right,
It's
exactly.
a conflict, sure.
So then you got to throw out all the
Did he
statements.
plead guilty or he went to trial
he
as
went
well?
to trial.
He went to trial.
Yeah, he went to trial. He was, listen, he was a good guy. I mean, as nuts as he was, he always had my back.
Yeah.
And I got him in trouble. He didn't get me in trouble.
Yeah.
I bought him there.
Did they call you at all? Did the prosecution want to call you as a witness for his trial at all?
No.
They didn't.
And then I said to my, maybe we could call him as a witness for me.
Right.
Because he said, I'm here if you need me.
Well, I know. I wouldn't have allowed. If I was his lawyer, I wouldn't want him to testify for
No, but
anything.
he already got convicted.
did.
So it was, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
he said to me,
he could have been powerful for you.
he said to me, he said, I'm here if you need me. He was already convicted. He said, I'm here if you need me. And I told my lawyer that. I said, just so you know, Armento said that if we need him, to whatever, he'll do it. This and that. And my lawyer goes, no. He goes, I don't need a convicted cop killer on the stand.
Yeah. But it is what it is, right?
You know what I mean?
Well, brother, God bless
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you. And,
My pleasure.
We're good, brother. All right.
How do you find the defendant, Lillo? Not guilty.
Not guilty. All counts. Not guilty.
I was not guilty
We
all the
would've-
way through. And then it was attempted burglary, serious physical injury to a non-participant. Because there was the one with the gun and then serious physical injury.
Yes.
The one with the gun was...
The lesser, right? You got convicted.
Those were
of the
lesser included offenses. Right.
Right. The jury gave the prosecutor something. They wanted to give him something. Jurors are human, and they feel bad that there's a death, and the family is in the courtroom, but they know you're not. You should be acquitted. They know you're not guilty, and sometimes juries just give something.
Well,
And that's, I think, what happened to you. You're a victim of that.
I definitely am. And another reason why is because when the verdict came down, first of all, when jury selection started?
Yeah.
November 17th. And when the verdict was read?
When?
December 22nd. So that was their whole Christmas season.
Right.
Shopping and everything was spent on my trial.
Yes.
So they were like, you know what? Let's at least get 1 day of shopping.
Yeah.
But not find them guilty on the big
We'll give
things.
them
We'll give them the
something.
least lesser included offense. We'll do a few years.
That's
fine.
exactly what happened.
And I remember my lawyer said, because I got 10 years, I read the tree, and he said, after this, and I remember what he said to me, it made me feel so much better. He goes, well, look at it this way. When you come home, you'll still be home in your 30s. I was like, wow, that's a good way to put it. And I'll still be in my 30s.
Right.
Not anymore, but,
Right.
Thank you, Gerard.
Good, man. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.